Stop being, a bystander and a judge and being critical of everything and get in the game. I want you to get in the game. It's a responsibility that you have to get in the game. It's a response. If you agree, get in the game. If you disagree, get in the game. If you have a different approach, get in the game.
That's leadership, is creating that culture where you are able to assemble a group of humans, guide them, help them, focus them to learn how to make really good decisions together. That's a powerful thing. And then you compound that across the rest of your organization. You're going to be a hard team, a hard department, a hard company to stop.
I'm on board.
You're on board?
My rotund friend, I'm on board.
No. I pushed the record button, and that's the first thing you heard.
That's what we got.
Entry music. Dun, 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 dun. It's the Bob and Josh Show.
Today's topic is kind of timely, but kind of not. It'll feel clickbaity, but it's not. Trust us. Give us a second. Let us dig into it. It is the challenge of democracy. And as a leader, when do you open the floodgates and make sure that every voice is heard when you're trying to steer the ship? How do you enable that? How do you encourage that? When you do, sometimes you get things you're not expecting. And how do you manage that? Do you ever pull the I'm the boss card and I'm going to make the decision?
Shut it down.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Shut down that democracy.
Oh, yeah. Man.
Hey, y'all, shut up. I'm going to make the decision.
Have you ever done that?
Yes, I have.
Yes. Yeah.
I've talked in the Metacast before about ORSC, my ORSC training, Organizational Relationship Systems Coaching training. And one of the meta skills in ORSC are the mindset attributes. And it goes to facilitation as well. So this is something that most facilitation courses teach, is this notion of deep democracy, where you're trying to create a space for, not that all voices count, but where all voices can emerge. And doesn't mean all voices have to get in play. You can't force people to get in play, but you're creating the space and the encouragement and the invitation for all voices. And I think that's part of my style. So when I was less democratic, Josh, it was in my leadership youth. I was a bit of a dictator. Let me be so bold as to say I was a bit of an asshole in my leadership youth. And my heart was in the right place. And I'm not just saying that. My heart was in the right place, but I had very little patience. My ego was a little bit unchecked, still is to some degree, but it was really unchecked. And I thought I was right most of the time. I really thought, I was not the center of the universe, but I thought my instincts were right. I got promoted because of my technical instincts and things like that. But then I naturally started evolving to being more democratic, wanting to get, particularly not for everything. Like, I think there's a spectrum of naming the team or naming a project versus making a fundamental design decision. I think on the more important, the more impactful, the more risk associated with a decision, I want more voices. When it's something that I consider to be relatively, trivial or not that impactful, then I want the voices. But if we're just, like you were talking about the name of something, is it Project Roadrunner or is it Project Tasmanian Devil? I'm like, and we're debating that for like an hour on end.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just going to call it Project Squeeze Button, and that's it. We're out of here. Right. We're done, wherever that came from. So I think it's that, but I've really leaned into democratic exchange. Now that doesn't mean I want to separate all voices are heard from how do we make the decision. So it's all voices are heard. And then in some cases we make a voting based democratic decision. And in some cases there's different ways to make that decision. And it's not always democratic. It's not always the number of votes from my point of view, but I do want to hear those voices. Any reactions to what I said?
Yeah, to me, the most important word that you said during that whole
Ooh,
diatribe.
just one word.
Just one word. Just one word. Yeah.
I'll endeavor to be more
Yeah.
more condensed the next time.
There was one word I found that you know,
Thank
that was
you,
useful.
John.
It was patience, because as a leader, when you open that door, you are opening the door to folks that often have never had the opportunity to be a part of a debate or a decision like that. And there's two sides of that coin. There are folks that are hyper eager to get in and have many thoughts, good, bad, just many thoughts. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where folks don't know how to react because they've never had the opportunity to contemplate something like that. And so they aren't even used to being asked. I can remember a distinct moment when someone came to me with a problem at a company I just joined. And my first response is, well, what do you think we should do? And that person responded like, what do you mean, what do I think? They're like, that's not my job. I'm like, yeah, it's your job. Like, it's important to me to understand what you think we should do, because you know what? I've been here like a couple of weeks. Like, how am I going to have all the answers? And that person was like knocked back on their heels. And I was a little bit shocked. And then I realized, oh, okay. So that's how things used to be here. It wasn't a democracy where people's opinions, values, and experience were not valued. And that's a transitional period for folks to figure out, how do I even play this game? So that's something that, as you introduce a more democratic approach, getting all voices heard, having everybody and allowing their opinions to shape the future, you're going to get a very wide spectrum of response value. And there are some where you're going to have to work with others to tone it down, and others where you're going to have to work with them to help them bring their voices up. And you've got to expect that, as we've talked about over the years, you are creating a cultural change and trying to train the organization on, this is how we operate in a more democratic approach where all voices are heard. I think I guess there were more than one word that was good. The concept that all voices are heard, I think, is really good. So
thank you,
that is
Josh.
that is my response to your, as I said before, diatribe.
I love you too. So, another reaction or thought I have, and I alluded to it, is something I discovered. There's a book by Sam Kaner, Kaner, a decision maker's guide, or a facilitation guide to decision making. It's in like its 4th, 5th, 6th edition. It's Sam and a bunch of authors, maybe 5. And when I read it, I don't know who turned me onto it. It was a long time ago. And he talked about deciding how to decide and making your decision public. So and there's different forms of decision, and I forget how many were in there. So one form is leader makes the decision, right? Another form is the democracy. We vote, and the majority wins. Another decision-making model was open discussion, and part of democracy is open debate, then vote, right? So all voices. Another one was open debate, and a previously selected decision leader makes the decision. I mean, and you pick the person who's in the best. If it's a technology decision, you would have an architect make that decision. If it's a leadership decision, you would have the group discuss it. And there's variations on those themes. And he talked about the length, the investment. Like, leader makes the decision in a vacuum is the quickest decision, right? And democracy with voting and passionate debate takes the longest. He also talked about stickiness or blame attributes of the decision. So if the leader makes a decision and if it fails, then everyone blames the leader. So there's little alignment with it. Whereas if you make a democratic decision, there's also this alignment of we went in there together.
Yeah.
Like, even if you disagree, Josh, you had the opportunity for passionate debate. and to get your opinion out there. So, chances are you're going to align, even if, like disagree, but align with it. And he had like 6 or 7 decision models. And I realized I was very willy-nilly on making decisions. Like I wouldn't be clear on which one are we going to use in this situation. And for more important decisions, you probably want to go up the spectrum. And I was saying that. Uh, and then you announce that decision-making model before you start debating the decision. So you don't even discuss the decision. You just release to the crowd, like, Josh, I'm going to decide when you talk.
I
Right.
mean, yeah, you just keep talking, and then when you finally shut up, I finally get to talk. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
that's how it works.
When I have to take a breath. So, but you're right. So you talk about, you sort of decide how to decide before you get into it. And what happens is it like makes the discussion process so clear and transparent, and it doesn't have a lot of tension. Uh, like you have, and it's the clarity of like, what is my responsibility in the decision making process? So to me, I think that's an aspect that I've leveraged since I was turned on to it, and it's worked out really. I think generally it's worked out well. Any reactions to deciding how to decide?
Yeah, one of the things that I've run into an unfortunate number of times is that responsibility is not desired. So there are many folks that are a part of the team that are more than happy to have someone else to blame, because
Yep.
it's hard when you have to look yourself in the mirror some number of months later and say, like, ooh, I was part of the problem.
Yep.
We landed on the wrong decision, and it's on me as well. I can't just go blame so-and-so because they made a bad decision. They didn't know what they were doing. It's always easy with hindsight when you have all the information you didn't have 6 months, 6 years ago to make whatever decision that was important at the time. It's always easy to look back, and after you've acquired a bunch of knowledge, and say, boy, gosh, we should have done that. So there is coaching that you're going to have to do to educate the team that it's okay. Like, we're going to do our best, and we might get it wrong, but we're also going to be a culture that if we identify that we're wrong, we're going to make a quick adjustment. We're just not going to say oh, yeah, that's bad. We made a decision, and it's on us to make this better. It's on us to read and react and make an adjustment. And that is another hurdle, just as I said, with folks that have never been a part of that process, but folks that have been happy to not be a part of that process, and then educating them on the value and getting them over that change curve of, it's going to be okay. Like, we might screw this up, but we'll be okay. We'll adjust.
Well, it's a responsibility. I mean, as you were talking, I was getting people. It's not optional for you to engage. Like, part of democracy is get off the sideline, stop being a bystander and a judge, and being critical of everything, and get in the game. I want you to get in the game. It's a responsibility that you have to get in the game. It's a response. If you agree, get in the game. If you disagree, get in the game. If you have a different approach, get in the game. But you can't just, and I find in technology, there's a lot of folks historically, when I've been in leadership position, it's almost like, it's like the arena. It's like the Roman arena, where there's only a few folks in the middle in the arena, and then everyone else is like in the stands, sort of judging and things like that for any decision. So I think a part of democracy is that inclusivity, almost forced inclusivity. Like, you can't stay on the sidelines anymore. You have to get in the game with us.
One of the more challenging discussions that I've found that I've had to have over the years is when you open the door and you let all of those thoughts and ideas come in. There are going to be many folks, again, we've talked about, that haven't had the opportunity, or maybe they're early in their career and they're still learning, or maybe you haven't done a good enough job of creating the context for them on what a good decision for the situation would look like.
Yep.
So when a suggestion, an idea, an opinion comes in and it's just way out of left field and it doesn't even apply, there's 2 actions that you have. There's 2 choices that you have. One, and the easy one is to just like dismiss it, be like, oh, that's silly, and just like ignore it. That's the wrong one, but that's the easy one. The right one is to hit the pause button, sit down with that person, ask them how they got to that suggestion, idea, opinion, approach, and then invest in them and help them understand how that missed the mark. Maybe wildly missed the mark, or maybe was just off. So that's an opportunity. That's a fantastic opportunity. One of the best opportunities for you as a leader to help educate that person to become an even more powerful member of your team, to then learn how to make the difficult choices, decisions, suggestions. The reason the arena is pretty empty is because it's hard. And so people maybe dip their toe in and they catch a spear in the left shoulder and like, okay, yeah, I don't want to do this. As opposed to if they catch a spear in their left shoulder, they then should get coached. And so that's your job, is that easing somebody into that, helping them understand when there's a misstep without it blowing up in their face. So that when you start that opportunity is going to be everywhere, right? Because everybody's new to this and it's a new challenge and exciting. And there's all these, furious thoughts and ideas that come in. And so now it's your job as a leader to guide and corral that team into the thoughtful debate, which is hard and tiring.
I think there's an important part of separating, and I think I've said it, of separating the listening. Like, we're going to listen to you. We're going to listen to every idea. It doesn't matter. We're going to respect each other. We're going to listen to every idea, and we're going to consider every idea. Stop. Okay. So that your ideas are going to be heard, and then separating the listening and the respect from the decision making and the action, if you know what I mean, so that people are not looking at it as, oh, my idea was ignored. All right. So they're connecting the two, right? They're connecting the idea presentation to the idea decision making. I want to decouple that to some degree, because I'm not promising that we're going to hear. I mean, think about it. We're not going to take everyone's ideas and then act on them. Like, that's called chaos, Metacasters, right? And we would be just spinning. So, but we are going to respectfully engage. So that's one thing. And I think as a leader, you have to model that and coach that to the team and talk about that and then hold that, right? Like, walk that talk.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, I think as a leader, as you were talking, sometimes we want to take wild ass ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes as a leader, I think we have a responsibility to not go in the comfort zone. And like Josh just brought up something like, I don't know, wearing straw hats at the Metacast, like farmer straw hats with a farmer, jeans on, like, bib overalls. And in my mind, I'm like, what a silly bastard is Josh, right? What's going on with that? But then part of me is like, what harm does it do, right? What harm would it do to go with that idea? It's a wild ass idea, and it might actually have some side effects, some positive side effects. So what the hell? Let's go with it. So I think occasionally as a leader, we're probably opening the door for some of those wild ass ideas. Or on the surface, they don't seem like they're sound. And we don't know that they're sound, right? I suspect they're not. But hey, you know what? What harm? I think that's part of the evolution of deep democracy, is taking risks as a leader. Any reactions, Josh?
Yeah, there have been some wonderful thoughts and ideas that have emerged from those discussions and those debates, and stuff comes out of nowhere and you start asking questions, and why, and how does that help us achieve our goal? And someone explains, and we go back to the diversity that we've talked about. And so somebody has a diverse opinion, a diverse view, a diverse experience set that you don't have. And those straw hats and overalls make no sense in your brain. But from their lens of the world, it's the perfect answer. And so at that point, you have, again, we talked about, you have the two choices. There's the wrong answer, which is just like, yeah, whatever. Or there's the, okay, tell me why. Like, what? how does that, like, what I would expect from Bob is Bob to say, like, okay, Josh, that seems crazy, but like, how does that help us? Like, how is that going to make our podcast better? And let's say I rattle off like 5 different things, and Bob's like, oh, dang, that would be cool.
Like for
That's
example, it shows off the hair on my chest.
yeah.
And I'm
I
like,
mean, who doesn't want that?
you know what, Josh? That you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I have a very majestic.
Yeah. Which everybody should see
Everyone
week.
should see every
Yeah.
week.
And so then again, that allows you to try on different lenses of the world and see and understand. And maybe you don't, take that idea 100%. Maybe you do, but maybe it starts to feed into other decisions that you're making, and it provides you with an additional lens of the world that helps you and your team be more effective. If you don't enable that, if you don't listen to that, if you don't engage in the discussion, you're just wasting time and energy. And there's nothing worse than I'm going to say words, but I know you as the leader really aren't going to listen. So it just feels like a waste of time. Like it feels like a sham, right? So you can't be that person. If you start this, if you take this approach, you have to be all in, because as soon as people feel that you aren't genuine, you aren't actually going to listen, you aren't actually going to get in a debate and a discussion, then not only has this thing started to blow up in your face, but you've lost a lot of credibility and you've probably lost your team. So you've got to be serious when you're ready to do this.
I had a thought related to the 5 dysfunctions. I don't know if you remember. I think there's trust is the basic dysfunction, and then collaborative team, like in the pyramid, the 5 dysfunctions, maybe collaboration, or the second level. The phrase in my mind that a trainer brought up was the passionate debate around the things that matter. And so this democracy thing, we're trying to get trust. So you need trust, psychological safety in order to get here. So that's something we haven't mentioned, and that's a foundational baseline. But then it's about the passionate debate about the things that matter, and the emphasis is on the things that matter. It goes back to trivial things are trivial things. They need a little bit. The serious things. What's our culture? How are we going to build good software? What are design standards we're going to have? Those are important things. How are we going to have deep democracy? That's an important cultural discussion to have so that we can get buy-in. Those are the things where we have that passionate debate, and then encouraging everyone to get on board. I want to come back though. Sometimes the leader, one of those decision-making models is have that passionate. So one of them was, I'm going to decide. So occasionally, I think it's okay for the leader to come out and say, we are going to build this. This is what this is what our board has decided. We've just started this company, and this is our application space. This is our raison d'etre. This is our space. And we're not going to discuss, well, why aren't we doing this and why aren't we doing this? Here's our guardrails, and in a dictatorial fashion, or after debate, after deep democracy, to say, I've listened to everyone and this is what we're going to do. And the idea is mine, not all of the other ones. Or I take my idea and maybe I add a few other things that I heard from it. But I'm not justifying it. I'm making a decision. And part of the democracy is, and it goes back to maybe in the US as an example, and this is a hard example. We just had an election to president of the United States, and it was a very divided election. And there were 2 candidates, one I voted for and one who won. So they were very, very different. But now I think there's a case of the person that won was really, I struggle with, but they're the president for the next 4 years of the United States of America, with emphasis on the United States. So I've been working hard to align and respect to that decision. I didn't make the decision. This is probably an extreme example for me, but it's that alignment, that support and alignment. And that's part of democracy, I think, is you have your voices heard, you make the decision, and then I want everyone to align like it was your decision. To me, that would be the alignment checkpoint. would be you behave like it was your decision. Now, I'm not quite there yet in the presidential side, and it may take me a while to get there. But that would be my goal, is I'm aligned, because again, division, sort of indecision, division, backbiting, that's not where we're going. Josh, any reactions to all that mumbling, all that gobbledygook I just spewed?
Yes. Given where we started in the Agile and Scrum world, this actually is a larger problem than many people think. And there are defined roles and responsibilities in the Agile and Scrum world. Think about the product owner. It is the product owner's job to define the stated direction for where we're going and what we're building. I have seen and corrected teams where every engineer thought they had all of the answers, and
Exactly.
the product owner had no idea what they were doing, and they spent an inordinate amount of time trying to educate the product owner on why they were wrong and how they didn't know the customers, and how this developer, that developer actually knows what the customers want, even though those developers never actually talk to customers. So that's a real challenge. Everybody wants a say, but you have to understand, and to Bob's point, respect the stated responsibilities. The responsibility of the product organization is to understand the market, understand the customer base, build and define a roadmap of things we're going to build that deliver value to our customers. And doing that is very challenging. Doing that requires a whole person or a whole team, and it is going to be near impossible for a group of engineers that are heads down building things to have the full context that product owner has been
Right.
allocated the time to go figure that out. And so I have had to correct many teams where that product owner's decision and direction is not respected. And that's a course correction that many teams have to make. That is hard, because that democratic stance was created, and you see a lot of Agile teams where they're like self-directed, and so people take that to the nth degree, and it almost gets out of control, and it becomes what Bob said, it becomes a bit of chaos, and everybody has an opinion, and it gets to the loudest voice in the room wins. And that's not a good way to deliver value to customers, because that loudest voice often isn't listening to the actual customer base. So that's a huge problem that I've seen in many directions that really fits in with everything that Bob just said.
I've seen that as well. Josh, I think I've taught a product owner class to several organizations that you've been a part of historically a long time ago. And one of the things I know I talk about in there is this notion of the roles, Scrum roles. So the product owner role, the Scrum Master role, the team role, and then I add leadership around that. And I talk about there's some innate things, like the product owner owns the direction of the product.
It's in the name, heaven forbid.
Right. It's like, now so in that case, you want passionate debate in the team, or passionate suggestions, etc. But at the end of the day, in that space, the product owner wins. Mm-hmm. Right? That's their job. And you have to trust that they're doing their job. Even if you did, no, stop looking for areas to trap them, right? Or to say, I told you so. No, that's not helpful. Now there's areas that the team owns. And again, in that case, passionate debate, but like product quality, design decisions, our team decisions. Managers, I think, should, ask questions, but at the end of the day, empower your team and your architect to make design decisions. That's their job. Or who's going to do the work? That's a team decision. Scrum Master is usually process, facilitation. Very often teams push back. Oh, we don't care about WIP, or we don't care about this or that. And trust, if the Scrum Master is seeing something, they're the champion for continuous improvement. Have the passionate debate, then shut up and trust them and listen to them, that they're doing their job, and at least try it, right? Try that direction. And management, it goes back to teams, trust, right? Managers have a role in these things, like the innate responsibilities of your role. And that's something a lot of teams don't get. And I think that is part of this. Deep democracy is not this kumbaya, get in a room and however long it takes 18 years to decide what the name of your team is going to be. That's not democracy. That's you will be out of work. You will be laid off and you will be looking for work. It's a little bit more nuanced than that, the way we're talking about it here.
Yeah. It's and that's the hard part. And as we've talked about the rarity of great leadership in the technology space, the rarity of a truly impactful, democratically minded approach to leading is equally rare. So oftentimes I've used this visualization a lot of the doors open, and that door is like kicked open, and like we're making all the decisions, we're self-directed, we're doing all this stuff, and then it becomes a grinding halt because no one's willing, no one's comfortable in, okay, cool, we got to make a decision, this is it. And we've all decided that this person is the one that we trust to make the decision the most. We're going to help educate them, help provide them everything we think they need to make the best decision possible. And then they're going to make it. And to Bob's point that he started us with, is we're going to get behind that and we're going to support that because we believe in this approach. So there is some learning and some challenge in getting this right. And it's hard and it's messy and it takes patience. Again, the one word Bob said that had value. And just like sticking to that when the stuff gets difficult.
Sticking it to Bob. Yes. Sticking it.
Yeah, it takes patience for me to just like continually give these same barbs to Bob, hopeful that someday it's gonna stick. Just hopeful, just one day.
Did we cover it, Josh? Is there something I feel like, I don't know if we missed anything. What do you think?
No, I think the takeaway for folks is it's challenging in many ways. It is going to challenge you as a leader to increase your approach in how you include people in discussions and decisions because it can be messy. And the difficult part is cleaning up that mess. That feels too strong, but there's going to be a little bit of a mess, and helping people corral that enthusiasm and that excitement into a consistent direction where we're all trying to push in the same direction, because people are going to have ideas they haven't had the opportunity to have a discussion, and now they're excited and they're fired up, and all these ideas are pouring out of the brain. And so trying to help guide and focus that is where the real challenge comes in.
You know what, though? I don't want to couch it. I agree with you, Josh, but I'm going to disagree with your tone.
Ooh.
You use terms like messy and difficulty and challenge, and it is messy, it's difficult, and it's a challenge, but it's why you're a leader. You'll get better decisions. So what I was going to end with is a lot of the arguments I hear sometimes is it's more timely for me to make a decision because I don't want to waste time and have these discussions. It's just too time consuming. Yeah, but for important decisions and discussions, you want the democratic view. You want to create refined solutions, and it's going to take time, and it's worth the time. That's the point. So don't call it messy. Yeah, it's emergent. Have more positive. It's collaborative. It's emergent. It's respectful to the team. I'm weighing in voices to make the right decision so that we get to the right balance. All I'm trying to say is, as a leader, don't look at this as a waste, because if we look at it as wasteful or messy, then we might lean towards, well, just it's so much simpler for me to make the decision. Well, it is, but often that's the wrong direction to take. For the really critical decisions, as a leader, you want to be messy. You have to guide your team through those challenges. You have to guide your teams through that mess. You have to have the patience and the wherewithal to see that to the end, is all I'm saying. Josh?
Think about a world where you've invested in that approach for some number of months or years, and you've helped your team learn how to have healthy, passionate, constructive debates that lead to really great decisions. You are all of a sudden finding yourself in a world where you're comfortable and confident that really great decisions are going to happen without you being there. To Bob's point, that's leadership. That's leadership, is creating that culture where you are able to assemble a group of humans, guide them, help them, focus them to learn how to make really good decisions together. That's a powerful thing. And then you compound that across the rest of your organization. You're going to be a hard team, a hard department, a hard company to stop. So that investment is absolutely worth it.
Mic drop, my friends.
Boom.
So from beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina.
And beautiful downtown Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina.
I'm Bobby G. Galen.
And Bake.
Take care, y'all. I love the way you did. I'm just Josh Anderson. I don't have to change it up all the time.